Uh, this is a little, I got my microphone on. I mean, that's good. All right, so now we start recording, and we're on page Ayin Zion. The blurb at the top said, Yisboyer hech no senis ima as yisoda to Leah. How, in fact, does Ima give her yisod to Leah? L'tzorach zivuga, so that Leah could have a yichud. So there says a number mem daled in the Rav. It says v'hine yisod the yisod of Ima hine hu toch reish dazah. Where is it? Well, her nai enters into the Rosh Hashanah. We're focusing on her yisod. It's inside of the head of Zeranpin. But today litno. So now she has to al Leah kanizkar. Now you want to take that yisod, which is inside of the head of Zeranpin, and bring it to Leah, which is Leah is on the back of the head of Zeranpin, not inside the head of Zeranpin. Va'ana omrim yud gimel midas the yavor. Well, how do we get that? Because the 13 midas, it says keil rachum v'chanum, as you're saying those words, which are all lashon of supplication and, say of praise to Hashem, like the different levels there. This all causes, that's what, during the recitation of that's what causes the yisod of Ima to transfer over to Leah. Ana omri yud gimel midas the yavor. Al derek mashan is bar la'el, like what we talked about before when we were talking about the kivarti. Va'oz, and then what happens is, haku kutsu this ari, the bundles of hair, there are four main bundles of hair coming down. Derek Anpin, they are coming from Eric Anpin. They fall down along the back of the head of Eric Anpin to the back of the head of Zeranpin. Makor ba'achre reisha dezah, they strike there, the backside of the reisha Zeranpin, the nickness of arasim lifnim b'mochen delay, and now their light from the bundles of hair, which are all this whiteness, is now going into the mochin of Zeranpin. Then what happens is if nivka yisod the ima, then what happens is it breaks open the yisod of ima, asher b'das shabo, that is inside of the das of shabo is Zeranpin, so it's inside of the das, so it's covered by the das, it's covered by Zeranpin, and you're going to say the 13 midos, and v'alav ne'emer b'Zechariah hanavi. So here's a quote from Zechariah: "V'nivka har hazesim," that they broke open the mountain of olives. So what's this got to do with it? K'noide ki yisod nikra zayis, because yisod is also called by the name olive.
Okay, when you talk about the breaking of har hazesim, that's Yemei Mashiach. That's one of the Simonim, right?
I really don't know. So if you say that, I'll go along with you. I really don't know, but here we're talking about not that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be a great earthquake in that har hazesim.
Well, that's the Pashtani look at it. So we're looking at in Pashtus, that's what it sounds like, and that's what he's saying. But here he's saying the sod is that Zayis is Lashon Yisod. And what the actual metaphor is in regards to moving the Yisod of Ima and making a Yisod in Leah. So Yisod, he says, is the Lashon Zayit. So we're breaking open the mount of the Zayit, that is the Har Zaytim, that is the place of the Yisod. Oz Hakavim Soy, so he says when you do that, now let's go back, let me read it back because we had a little diach there. Let's go back where it says, V'alav ne'emar b'Zechariah navi, v'nivka har hazesim. So we're talking about what? The Yisod of Ima. K'noida ki Yisod the Ima nikra zayis. Because he said the sod of Ima is called an olive. K'mavur etzleina, which is explained by us, the pasuk shemen zayit zak. It is the oil that comes out of the pure refined, I guess it means pure refined oil that comes from the olive.
The initial press.
Okay, but here we mean, what do we mean by the word shemen? So it would see if the olive is zayit, then the shemen that comes from it has to refer to the yisod as it's transferred over to Leah. How's that sound? So v'yosa nibka. So now we say it broke open. So what happens when it breaks open? Asa kavim soy the ima, because now it's revealing the middle line of ima. Because Yesod is in the middle. You have Netzach on the right, you have Hod on the left, and you have ima in the middle. That is Yesod in the middle. So therefore, when it breaks open, it reveals the Penimius that's inside of the Yesod. So he says, Shuhu ha-Yesod dilah yatzu l'chut. So that is that what's the Yesod now moves out. That is the Yesod, the ultimate essence of the Yesod, I guess he means to say. Something like that. Moves out. Beniten al Leah, and now goes over and is given to Leah. Now she has now a kli that's fit for zivug. Now, like I said before, in order for this to happen, you said the 13 mitos, or you brought these bundles of hairs into the mochin of Zeranpin, and it causes a breaking open of the Yesod of Ima, which is inside of the cranium of Zeranpin. Causes the break open. Now, we've heard this before because we talked about the beard. It has a different one. The Tiv is going to mention it. So anyway, that's what's happening. And now somehow what came out of her from Ima. But let's talk about Netzach and Hod. Shem Netzach Hod Ima. They don't have to move out. The Nisharim took Zer Anpin, and they remain inside of Zer Anpin. Kihem Kabim Bifne Atzman, because they're lines of Shefa, individual lines of Shefa by themselves. They don't hold back the middle line. In other words, the middle line is the middle line, and the right line is the right line, and the left line is the left line. And whatever the middle line is doing, that's what it needs to be doing. Same thing with them, but they have some other purpose. But let's say V'liten el Leah Knizka. They don't have to go to Leah, which I'm not sure exactly what that means. Does it mean that Leah already has a Netzach and Hod, but she doesn't have a Yesod? I don't know. Let's look at any questions about that?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so let's go to Mem Daled. Mem Daled actually is on the top of the right column on page Ayin Ches. So it says like this. He says, Ke'es mevaya Rab. Now, the Rab wants to say, Ketzad ima nosenes le'Leah b'holvo. How is it, in fact, that Ima gives to Leah as a loan? What's she giving to? As a halva, as a yesod shalo, im haman shabo. Now, let's go over just the last part, because it answers a question we had yesterday, but it was about what did this man do? What man are we talking about? So let's just read the sentences. Ketzad, how's it work? Ima no senes the Leah b'holva, she loans to Leah as the yesod shalo ima man shabo. So here he's telling me something that hard for me to track or to understand, is that the nature of the shefa inside of Ima is a light that goes from the bottom to the top. That's man. And the nature of the light that's inside of Abba, or Chochma, is a light that is mad. It's a light that goes downwards. So you have like that. It's going from the top to the bottom. So here you have the top to the bottom meeting with the bottom to the top. Okay, that's just a side light that I want to part of, because he made the point of saying that she not only does she get the Yesod, but she gets the man that's in it, which is the female quality, which I like to say from a psychological point is that the female attribute works from the bottom to the top. It's an editor. So in other words, something's already existing, or it perfects it. It keeps working on it. That working on it starts at the bottom and goes to the top. That's its nature. And it's an unbreakable nature. So he said that's what we're saying here, is that the Yesod has man in it. Now, where the man came from, that's another story. Makdim Loma, now he comes in, what's to say like this. The Yesod Ima Nimsa Ke'es Besoch Rosh Zer Anpin. Where is the Yesod of Ima? Well, it came in with the Nai, and they're all inside of the head of Zer Anpin. Now she has to get it over to Leah. Just like we heard this before about the 13 midos, they do lots of things. So this is another thing that they do. So he said, now you want to get it over to Leah. Now, okay, I thought you were trying to give the yesod. He says you have to break open the yesod. Shebetoch Resha de Zer Anpin, which is inside of the head of Zer Anpin. Shem Kach, and for this reason, Srichen Ana Lisiyua Shel Hakutza de Sa'ari. Now, so I'll translate, then I have a question on this. So he said, L'shem Kach, for this reason, we need help. Siyua. What do we get? We get the Kutza de Sa'ari to come in. Now, my question is that you're trying to transfer the Yesod. So I assume that he says you have to break open the Yesod. It's not that you're like transferring the goof of the Yesod. That's what I thought he was saying, that the Shemen Zayazach. There's something inside of it, which is the kernel of the inside, of the panemius of it. That's what you're trying to get out. That's my supposition here. He hasn't said that. Huh?
Why do we need the Sahara? What's the purpose?
Okay, so he's explaining. Okay, so then we're going on. Okay, so he says that it helps. It breaks open actually the yesod. It comes from Erich. Ad rosh Zer Anpin etzad orv, goes around the back of the head. So we have that same thing that Rabbi Mimram used to say, is that directions are always the same. Is that the back of the head of Erich Anpin goes to the back of the head of Zer Anpin. It's just like mailing. That's the way it always goes. So in other words, they're lined up in some way. So this, therefore, it causes the light of these bundles to really shine. And they go into the mochin, which is the chabad inside of the skull of Zer Anpin, and whereas in his das is located this yesod of Ima. Now adding all of this ha'ara on, shall the kutza de sa'ari, nivka yesod shall Ima, it breaks open the yesod of Ima. Now previously, so I think he's going to talk about it, so let me not jump in. Vayidei kanisis ha'aras hamochin de Zer Anpin, nivka yesod shall Ima, it breaks open the yesod of Ima. Shenimsa besoch hamocha shall adas shall Zer Anpin, which is inside of the moach adas of Zer Anpin. Ki eno yochol lisbol orus atzumus kol kach, because now that there's so much light in there, he says that what happens is when you add the light from the bundles, there's too much, and it breaks open the yesod, which is inside of the das. Okay, so he didn't say anything about das. He doesn't say that das breaks open. So he said, "V'zen nirmaz b'loshen hanavi Zechariah," where it says "v'nivka har hazesim," that it broke open the har hazesim. Har hazesim is referring to the yesod. Shazal romas al bekiyas yesod. V'kevin yesod karui zayis. So since the yesod we have from some other place that it's called by the name Aleph. Commotion is bar b'pasuk shemen zayis zach. Like we have that, it's called. We just want to know that. Let's go over to the next page here. Let me see. And he says, so I think that was the end. Zayzach, okay, yeah. So what happens is you broke it up. Now what goes out from it, hakavim soy shalanai de'ima. So that shemen, I was trying to say this. So that shemen is over here, is now the emsoy of the nai de'ima. It's the kav emsoy. It reveals the kav emsoy, which I think he means to say it reveals the essence, I don't know, of ima. Mishum shebemochim shal za nimsoyim call the gimel kavim shal nai de'ima. So he digresses. He wants to paint a picture. He says inside of the brain of za, nimsoyim call the gimel kavim. You have the three lines. The line of Netzachot and Yesod, the Ima. So Ima is inside of the skull of Zer Anpin, and she has three sides, three mochin in her. Yesod shall Ima shuhu hakav emsoy. So the Yesod of Ima, which is the middle line, Nimsa bein kava netzach, shenimsa beyamin lekava yisod. The bein kava hod, shenimsa mismol yisod, which is on the left side of yisod. V'nitan the yisod shall ima b'chavol Leah. So now this yisod, therefore, is given over as a loan to Leah. Now he did go around and he said, the yisod breaks open. Now, just let me ask you, how do you picture this situation? The yisod breaks open, and now it's broken open, and as a result of this breaking of it open, it's able to, the 13 midos, to go over to Leah. Now, I thought, my understanding is that when he said Shemen Zayat Zach, and I focused on the Shemen, that he meant that the essence of it went over to Leah. But he doesn't say that. Instead, he seems to be saying that the whole Yesod goes over there. That's what I'm thinking. In a broken form, in a form where it's split open. Or does he mean, I'm just, trying to picture out what's moving. What is it exactly? Okay, anyway, I'm going on a little bit. We're still on Memtes. But you didn't see this Yesod shall ima b'chavol lebitav. So he's Leah. So now he said the Yesod go, not the essence of the Yesod, not the middle line of the Yesod, just the Yesod itself. Na'asa b'Leah klira Yesod sha'al yado hi ru'ui lezivug. So that's how she could make a yichud. So let's go on a little bit more. And he says, Mosif Arab Limro Shakav Yesod Shal Ima Yotzich Ochutza, so that once the Yesod goes out. So what he means, it got detached from being inside of the das of Zer Anpin and inside of the head of Zer Anpin, and it goes out. V'niten Leah, and it's given to Leah, which completes her, I guess, into a partzuf. Ak Shnei HaKavim Anosarim, wants to just tell you this, the other two kavim, which is the kav of Netzach and the kav of Hod, the Ima, Shehem Netzach and Hod, Einen Srichim that says Merosh Zer Anpin. They don't have to go out of the head of Zer Anpin. Ela Nisha'arim Besocha, but they remain inside of Zer Anpin, Kamo Shehoya Kodem Abakia, just like they were. They don't go out of Zer Anpin. So somehow the 13 meters have the ability, and with the help of the light of the Kutza de Sa'ari, to be able to break open the Yesod, and not only break it open, I just don't think that it's not breaking it open. That's the problem I'm having with this. It's moving it. But he used the word breaking open, just like we had before in the construction of the 4 upper tikkunim of Zer Anpin, of his beard. The reason why the Netzach and Hod don't move, Yotzim Yachad Ima Yisod, why don't they all move together? Because they're kavim by themselves, they have their own duties. They don't depend on Yisod, they got their own thing going. The same thing as they don't get into Yisod's business either. They don't hold them back. Shehu HaKavim soy, because the Yesod is the middle line, shall anai the Ima of the Nai Ima. In other words, you have a right side, which is the Netzach, and you have a left side, which is the Hod. But let's say it's Levado, so therefore it's able to go out by itself. V'lehinasim l'Leah l'tzorach b'niyas kliya Yesod shelo, and go over to Leah. So maybe the better way to understand this is that when he says it breaks it open, nivka. So I have in my mind it means that it cracked.
Yeah.
But I think he means that it cracked away from the combo, the Netzach and the Hod. That's the cracking that takes place here. In other words, it cracks off.
It breaks away.
Breaks away. That's the proper phrase. Instead of what breaks open, which is the way I was translating it, it breaks away. So you had it's a separation rather than a breaking. A breaking away is the way you said it. That's since he's using that word, he's wording bukeya, which means to break out or break, through. All right, now I know there's more. So let's see next one. It says Yisboyer shall al yedei bekiyas yesod. So the breaking loose of yesod, the ima, naasa beis tikunim. You do two different things. Echad she'ima no senes yisod l'leo. That's what we've been talking about. That's the first one. The second one, Ashlomas Hazah Liyud Gimel Tikkun Dikna. Because we understand that these two things are playing out with the same words, sort of, so to speak. So let's see how I'm lined up here. I think I'm okay. Okay, so number Nun Bet. He says, "Ke'esmet maske marav mana asa umato elis bebekiyas yisod shalima." So now the Rav wants to conclude what is done. Umato elis. What's the ultimate purpose of breaking open the yisod of ima? So previously, when we had the word bekiya, it really referred to the revelation of the four mochin inside of the das zeranpin, or inside a zeranpin, and then creating the four tikkunim in the beard as a result of the light that comes from that, and the chabarti and the yisod and the tipa. He said all of that made the beard. So he says, "Nimsa barosh zeranpin." There's a lot of things going on there. Pula achas. One of the things that happens, he asiyas yisod l'leah, is making yisod for Leah ayedecha ba'asa me'ima, by getting her alone from ima. Kamoshi is bar b'drash zu. We've been talking about this. The second thing that happens, is to make it possible for the dikna zer anpin to develop. This also happens at the time when you're saying the 13 minus. Because by breking open the yisod of ima, maskil hashlav shalosh shlomas adikna, then the development, maskil hashlav, the development of the completion of the dikna of Zer Anpin, sheyesh bo rak tesha tikunim, which only is 9 tikunim, we completed to 13. V'anachta mashlim so lo yud gimel tikunim. Moshe bir ba'arichos, we already went through this in Drush Aleph. Now he says number Nun Gimel. Ke'es, now he says, Mevar Rab Bekitzer, Masha bir la'el. The Rab wants to come and explain what he talked about previously. Ketzad hu tikun, how is it? Wait a minute, I think I'm in the wrong place. That was just an introduction, so let me go back up to the top. Listen to the words of the Rav. He says, Yisbar b'chashlomas azal liyud gimel tikun dikna. So when we're going to talk about that, the part of the Zer Anpin is going to be made into 13 tikunim. Na'asa al yedeh shenishlam l'zah dalad mochim d'chub v'chub. It happens as a result of making Zah into showing, it's really a revelation. He completes his mochi. Chochma bina, chesed gevura, al yedei bekiyas yisod de'ima. And how does he do this? Again, breaking over the yisod of ima. That's the way we understand it, was breaking it open. So he said, I guess breaking it open, that's what we were saying before, is the same thing as breaking it free. Maybe. So let's go on. So number Nun Gimel, he said, "V'hine tikun dikna dezahu." So what's the tikun for the dikna zah? Originally he had only 3 mochin, which is Chabad. But now, kashanivka yisod ima, when the yisod of ima breaks open, you find out, there's more. Na'aser hadash shnei mochin. Das splits into 2. In the words of the Gra, the das always, the middle line splits. That's its nature. That's its nature. It's right and left. It's male and female. Middle line is always like that. Shehem chesed de gevura. So now you have 2 more mochim. Vayidei kain nishlam b'zali yud ben gimel tikun dikna al derek canal. So in the same way that we were talking about before, we're talking about this is how the 4 missing pieces of the 4 additional pieces of Zeranpin are manufactured. So, yeah.
We know that Das is divided into Hasodim and Hegevuras. So why don't we speak of it as Dar instead of Bar?
As Dar instead of Gar?
Yes.
Sometimes we do, but not here. Because his thinking was, he wanted to say that it starts out as a Dar, but then it gets squeezed into the Nayavima. So the middle line comes together. That's like a yichud in a certain way, because they're opposites. So they come together and they go into the yisod of ima. And then they go into the das of zah. Where all this life that we're producing now is going to show us that what they actually are in reality. So another question that goes along the same line is it why did the Ein Sof Baruch Hu make it so that you have to conceal Das? That Das is actually has more potential, more in it. It's like that kernel of the essence of the Maskala, because Das is the middle line. So, that's what the Matzah wanted to do. So I don't know. A lot of questions about that's a good question. Let's see what else we say. So did we read the Rav? We didn't read the Rav, or we did?
We did.
Okay, so now we're on number Nud Gimel in the Tiv. So he says Ke'es now. Mivar Harab Bekitzer Mashabir La'el. So let's talk about what he said before. Ketzad Hu Tikun the Dikna the Zat. He's going to review it for us. So he says the mochin of Zab were originally covered over in the clothing of the Nai the Ima, and there were only Rak Gimel Mochin Bilvad Shechoya Chabad. So Chabad really is the concept of the bundle. The bundle coming in. The bundle coming into Zer Anpin is bundled up, it's the Chabad. So at that time, Rak Tisha Tikuni Bavad, there were only 9 Tikunim. Ba'anu wrote him, what do we want to do? Lahosif Baza O Dala Tikuni Dikna Dikna Dikna. Now he doesn't explain why you need that. Over here it is explained in detail in the Idris. Over there, the idea is that Zer Anpin by himself is pure din. He's got one eye that's red, one eye that's black. So what you want to do is you want to make him a mirror image of Eric Anpin, whose eye has only one eye, and that eye is white. And so that's the reason that I'm putting on the need for the 13 rather than the 9. So let's go on. So he said, Rosin the Choseh Bezah, O Dalet Tikuni Dikna, Vayideza Yihyu Bo Yud Gimel Tikunim, and therefore we're going to make him the 13. So how do we do this? And we're going to run right through our stuff again. He's going to hold back the tipa, and that is held back to the time of the saying I think it's the 13 midos also. He causes the yisod, the ima, to be broken open. So this is we're in a situation that we're only 9 tikkunim in the beard. Since there are only 3 mochim which are chabad, the zer anpen, hamaluvashim betoch kli anai, which is inside of the kli anai, the ima. Kol echad b'mochi chabad, so each one of the mochim the chabad, kolu umurchav gam hu mechabad, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. Shehem saka kol teshu tikuni dikna. Now, so what they say there, so we've seen this before. It's a chance to look at it in a little different perspective. He says that one of the components is the fact that in the state of Chabad, it has the effect of producing a beard. But it has the effect of producing a beard which has 9 components, because the Chabad is the Chabad of the Chabad, like that. Now, this is a certain kind of language which I always wonder about how we get to this, but he says, this is my answer to myself. He says, so how do we understand this story? That he's telling us these things. It's a Chabad of a Chabad. Where did that come from? So he said, well, actually, that's the truth. That's what he says. He says it's the truth. And so that's what it is, even though they didn't know why it went that way. But that's the truth. The truth is, it's a Chabad of the Chabad, and it makes 9. So somehow, the Mochin themselves project the beard. Project the beard, because the beard is going to be the place where the hismatus of the light is going to take place. And in other words, allow for a transfer into the lower worlds. So this all has to go through this process. The process is that first he said, when it comes out of Ima, when the Mochin come out, there are 4 of them. Then they get squeezed into the Nai of Ima. And the Nai of Ima, they become 3. The 3 is like 3 times 3. And as a result of that, you get a beard of 9 parts. So he said, B'kol muach tikun dikna echot. So he says, so each one of them makes 1 tikun. Vayedei Bekiyas Yisod Shal Ima, but now you're breaking over the Yisod of Ima. Hamochen should be Yisod the Ima Na'asim B'li Levush Klal. Now they're out there and they become manufactured and they have no clothing. They're just out there shining. There's no nai here anymore. So what's the muach that Yesod is inside of? It's das. So now we say that when you get to this stage and it's broken open, we know that das has two components. Muach hasadim and muach gavuros. Because the man shehi besocha Yesod the im, as long as it was inside in they were congealed. The besoch Yesod the im lo yachlo lahachla lehalech b'lehifare. They couldn't split and they couldn't be separated. Ak ata, but now when you remove the Yesod, agasher nisharu bilti levush, they have no clothing. Yicholim haim lehalech, that could be divided up. The shnei mochim, the two, and now you see that the middle line is split. Shekol echad kolu gam kain shlosha mochim, and he says, but this is a hard part for me too. He says, so therefore we see that there are 4 mochim, and each one of them has their own chabad. So I just want to make a comment. I would have thought that he would have said each one of them has 4 mochim. That would make 16, but that's the wrong number because he wants to get to 12. So they don't make 16. So it's just like he said that the Chabad makes a Chabad, so that's 3 times 3. So if you say this, so therefore you add in these 2 more mochim, it should be 4 times 4, but it's not. It's 4 times 3. So if it's 4 times 3, not the only way, but the way I can understand it right now is that it reverts back as it goes downwards in the similar pattern, or it goes outwards, whatever you want to say. Is that once it becomes, I don't know, he wants to say 12, so once it becomes 4, it's still going to go back into becoming a Chabad inside of that 4. So that's 4 times 3, 3 times 4. V'kach yesh lanu arba mochim chochma bina v'das hakolo b'chasadim v'gevuros. Okay, so I can't track that 100%. I just want to look at it. So now there are 4 mochim, which are grafted from 3. Shehem saka kol yud beis tikunim. So I guess that's what he's saying. He's not saying it the way that I said it. And I'm sorry, I'm probably getting you mixed up.
I hear your question, but I see the answer now.
How do you, so let me repeat it. Let me see if I'm Murkavi. He says, now they're grafted together from the 3. So the original 3 times the 4 makes 12. Shem saka kol yud beis tikunim v'im kol. So therefore kol. So now, as we said before, there's a wrap up, so a wrap around them, so to speak. Yesh lanu yud gimel tikunim dikna. So therefore that makes 13. V'kach noitzer metasha tikunim dikna yud gimel tikunim dikna. So therefore you can, from the 9, from the tesha, you can make yud gimel. That's how that happens.
That's the truth.
Okay, so that's it. So they're grafted from, so it's 4 that is squeezed into 3, and then the 3 produces 4. So now the 4 is grafted from the 3, and that's 3 times 4 is 12, something like that. That's actually the words, but I'm still behind in the understanding. Let's go number Nun Hey. Yisod the Leah, Na'asa Yedeh HaChibuk, Hasheni Shuhu Yoser Ma'ula. Remember that? Back to the Chibukim again. Now, I really fell asleep in the middle of reviewing this, so we're getting towards the end of what I actually looked at. So, bear with me as we go. So the words of the Rab are, Amnam Tikkun Yisod Leah. When we're talking about manufacturing or the construction of the Yisod Leah, Nira L'Ranias Daiti. So it says, it appears to my inferior mind. Chaim, talking about himself. Ki zehu masha kasu lamala. This is referring to what we said up above. Ki b'yavor. When you say yavor, naasa chibuk sheni. Yosef ma'ula. V'hi l'tzorach zivug leah. Okay, so the chibuk comes before the yichud. So let's just look at the idea over there. There was a chibuk that took place in the first part of the Shemona Esrei. And he pointed out, I think there were 4 places, which really I'm waiting to get to that part of the of our limud that we should be zeicha to reach in regards to Kriya Shema and the Shemona Esrei. It's like a whole big piece too. So at any rate, okay, so that's what he said. It leads to it's a chibuk which is on a higher level than that first one that appeared at the beginning of the Shemona Esrei. Now let's go over to number Nun Hey, which is actually on page Pei Aleph, and it says Ke'es. Now, Chozer Maruchu le'inyan hadrash shalanu, one of our drashos, shehu nesinas yisod shel ima laleah. He wants to go back and start talking about that. Mechadish Maruchu shezechu b'chinas achibuk hasheni. So he says this. Wait a minute. What is it we talking about? Nesinas yisod. The process of giving the yisod is a second level of chibuk. Now, when I think of a chibuk, I think of the higher level being at the shoulders, because that's the higher level of Zeranpin, let's say. But he seems to me, maybe he thinks that it's at the lower level, because it's closer to the Yisodos. So he said, it happens when you say v'yavor. So the chibuk hasheni happens when you say yavor. There's so many things happen. Midrash Rishon, over there we said what the first chibuk was. Shena'ase begimel b'brachos rishonos are made in the first 3 brachos. Umorcha begimel chibukim, and that one is also a grafting or a joining together of 3 different chibukim. Hachibuk harishon na'ase beberchos avos, v'hu b'kav yomin, which is in the left line, or the right line rather. I'm sorry. In the berchos avos there is a right line. Shuhu b'chesed izah. There's a chibuk with a chesed. Hachibuk hasheni na'ase ba'ata gibor. When you say gibor, it's lashon gevura. V'hu chibuk b'kav small shuhu gevura b'gezor d'zah. V'chibuk hashlish, and the third one na'ase b'birchos ata kadosh. V'hu chibuk b'kav imsoy. So he says that the first level of chibukim is 3, right, left, center. V'kol zeh b'chu b'bechinas chibuk echad. But that is actually one big chibuk.
Okay. Initially, the first chibuk was on the kav small, not the kav yamin, and now he's just contradicting himself. To my mind, I don't understand.
Well, he said that the first one. Let's just talk about the first one. Yeah. Okay. No, I know we had that question before. So, we have to kind of figure out where they are, but maybe this is not the place where he's going to tell us this. So, the question is what is the order? Because we understand that it's first, it's left, then it's right. Oh, but here he's talking about one category, which was right, left, center.
In the Shemona Esrei, when the Shlech Sivor is saying Birkas Kohanim, he leans to the left, and then he leans to the right, and then he leans to the middle and up. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know that.
You don't know that?
No.
You've done from the Yomid, correct?
No, I haven't.
You've never done from the Yomid?
No.
For your side, or?
No, I have, but I'm not Sephardic. So when I daven the Omed, I'm in an Ashkenaz minyan, and there is none.
There's no leaning left, right, in the middle.
Well, I don't know what the minig is. I don't know what the minig is, but
all chassid lean. I mean, whether it's Chabad or whether it's Nusach Sfard, I mean, they all, yeah. And I think it's definitely related to the chibukim. I mean, in the middle of the Birkas Kohen.
Okay, I don't know this. I don't know. But he wants to say that what we're heading towards here is a higher, in Yavor, we're heading to a higher level of chibuk. So that rather than the chibuk that we saw in these 3 sections, that we had to do with the right, the left, and the center, into one that's one level of chibuk. That's why we use the word level on it. So I think it's the higher level of chibuk. So there's lots of different ways to divide things up, right? So he said, "V'chibuk hasheni shena'ase kan," but now we're talking about the chibuk, the second chibuk, and I'm up at the top of the left column on Peal. So chabakan b'v'yavor Mechadish Rab, the Rab is telling us something new. The Nesidas Yisod the Imo B'Cholvoa L'Leah, when that Yisod is given, Hu HaNikra Kan Achibuk Hasheni. This is the second one because it's Yisodos. Okay, it's a clinging together of Yisodos. It's a matching Yisodos. Now, see, it's a metaphor that's still got a lot to play on. For Ayin B'Shefa Kavonos, he has some background on it. Okay, now we're on number Nun Vov. And how are you doing? You have a time to look at another one? This one is a little bit, it has quite a bit of tiv on it. Yeah, it's a little bit longer, but we could read the top.
Okay.
Yeah, it's longer. We could read the top. Okay. So he says, Yisboyer inin v'yavor av miyamina shuhu b'chesed da'atik rayo b'smola. Then Rayo, which is Lush Gevura, is on the left. What is Rayo? Gimel Pamim Av. So first, the right is pure Av. Then on the left is 3 Avs. Vehem Birurich HaNetzutzes. And what are they exactly? Well, these are the Birurim, these are the mined-out Birurim of Kedusha, which are called the Netzutzos, Mibechinas Sag Ma'u Ben. Now, what exactly that meant, I don't know. Let me just read it again. So I had no problem with the Av on the right, the Rayo on the left. So he says, then he explains that what's Rayo is Gimel Bamim Av. What is that besides that? They're Birurim. Biruri HaNetzutzos Mebechinas Sag Ma'u Ben, that were aspects of of Bia, from those lower worlds, I guess. Sag Ma'u Ben, it has to be explained. So he says, Gam Nira L'Niazdaiti. So this is Rabbi Chaim Vital writing. Masha Kasav La'olam Be'inyan Av Miyamina. And then it says, Rayo Mismola. Nira Li Sha'biruhu. So it seems to me that the explanation of this is, Ki Hinei Kol Hazivugim Heim Litzorach Biruri HaNetzutzos Shalom Alachim Tremes Demiso. The whole reason that we talk about Zivugim. And I just want to add that this is the big deal. The bringing opposites together is the big deal. And the whole purpose of this, he says, is l'tzorah berurah hanetzuzah shalom malachim demeso, is to bring up the berurim from those malachim, asher heim mispar rapach. There's a whole gematria of them, which comes out to be 288. So he says, and obviously he's going to talk about that. So he says there are rapach netzutzim. There are netzutzim which there are 4, rapach is 4 times 72. So there is a 72 that exists in all of the worlds, in the world of Itzilus, in the world of Bria, in the world of Yesira and Asiya. And that's a part of what makes the concept of rapach, is that you're bringing them up. And I'm sure that he's going to get into it. I hadn't looked at it previously. So let's look some more. Number Nun Ches, it says, Keminin v'yavor, which is a gematria v'yavor, Shehem Av Rayo, which is actually to these 2 words, Av and Rayo. Now, we're dealing with something that's really sweet looking. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a birur in the 3 lowest bechinos. Now, in Asmab, which is the 4 names, the four different miluyim, the 3 lower ones are Sag Ma'u Ben. Each one of them is in the Rapach, there's a way of combining them. We have actually seen this before, into 72s. 4 times 72, 4 different 72s. The 72 that we know about in Olam Atzilus is straight out 72. But after that, then you're going to get into 3 other Havayas. They're going to be the Havaya of Sag. And you're going to add to it and make it its own letters, and you can make it into a 73. And then there's Ma, and you add into its Milui, it makes 71. So 71 and 73 is going to be, 2 parts of 72 together. And then the last one is Ben. And so he shows you how Ben, also in a Revua, and different kinds of ways of doing Ben, there's more than one, makes also 72. So they're also formed out of Av, or they can make it into Av. That's what I was saying, and he's probably going to spell it out for us. This had been explained. B'drash harapak nitzutzim, which is a drush that, you're going to get a taste of this. This is something you haven't seen. V'shlosha av elu heim rayo. So you take these three ravs. That's the part that comes from the smab, right? The sag, ma, uben. That's the three parts of the rayo. In other words, the lower parts of the combinations of nitzutzos. It's also called nitzutzim. So sometimes he calls it one or the other. Of the nitzutzim, which are sparks of kedusha. So they're coming out of these lower worlds, the smab. V'shlosha av elu heim rayo. They add them up. They come out the rayo. So I always been saying, and I would like to know more and more about rayo, because it's really important, especially in Rosh Hashanah. So he says that this rayo, I always thought, is sweetened dinim. Right? So how could I relate that to what he's telling me? It has to do with the smab, the nitzutzos of the nitzutzim of the smab. Because that's what it is. The nitzutzim are dinim. They fell into bia. They're full of dinim. That's what they were to begin with. But now as you're bringing them back, you're bringing them out because of the nitzutzim, the kedusha, we're forming them into a rayo. That's what he says. So they go over to the left, and for the purpose of creating this rayo, which is lashon din, but sweetened din, I think. Shehu kol kli on nekeva kanoid. So this rayo is gevura. Gevura is the kli of the nook. Now a little bit more, and we're almost out of here. Tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll see something really beautiful, and I think tomorrow is going to be the last year until or I could try to I don't just know how it works over there, how it's going to be for me, because Yoko Gross used to say, he told me, he says, because he travels, I think he's still alive, he travels, so he's at least 10 years older than me, maybe close to 15. Anyway, he says, when you get older, you're like an old chest. As long as you're sitting there, everything's working. But once you go to move it, it starts to fall apart.
Moving.
Yeah. Anyway. Huh?
We communicate every week.
Oh, you're still talking to him?
Yeah, of course.
You're great. Okay, so God should bless him. He's a great guy. So from the right side, which is masculine, Nimshach tipas av mamish. That's where you have the pure av. Yud vav dalad ke yud vav yud vav ke yud. The other ones are combinations. So that's the deep idea here, important. The milu yudim. So that's the av milu yudim. Ki hine hatipa hazos hayeredis atas. Because this is the ball roller. This is the tipa that comes down now. He min a chesed atik. It's coming from the chesed of atik. It's a complete, tremendously high place, which the chesed of atik is maluvish inside of the Gugolta of Eric Anpin. This is how high it is. But the Chidas Hadrash, so we talked about this over there. So now we know another pshat in the word Yavor. Kain lira the niyazdaiti, he said, Rabbi Chaim Vital says, that's my impoverished mind thinks. Okay, so that Mitzvah Hashem, your tomorrow is okay. You're okay for tomorrow. You're not leaving early.
No.
Okay, so we'll try to start a little earlier tomorrow. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for learning with me today.
I'll call you at 8:15. Is that good for you?
Yeah, probably. Okay. Talk to you tomorrow. Call to it.